Hi, and welcome back to Friends, Loves, and Life. I'm David Begor. As we grow older, movement becomes more than just exercise, it becomes medicine. Staying physically active maintains strength, balance, and independence. It gives us structure, purpose, and a chance to keep showing up for ourselves and for others. And when that movement happens in community, it becomes something even more powerful. The gym, the park, the group class, these places become anchors, especially for older LGBTQ plus folks who often face increased isolation. They are spaces where connection thrives, where loneliness fades, and where visibility matters. They remind us that aging doesn't have to mean isolation or decline. It can mean growth, laughter, and renewed energy. I saw this firsthand when my mother had a stroke in her late 60s. Her recovery depended not only on physical activity, but also on staying socially engaged. On the days that she connected with others in her living facility community, her mental and emotional state noticeably improved. But my mother wasn't a self-motivator when it came to exercise, and over time, that took a toll. She eventually spent her remaining years in a wheelchair. It was a hard reality, and it taught me something lasting. Healing isn't just about what your body can do, it's about who you're doing it with and how you see yourself in the process. Every once in a while, you meet someone whose presence reminds you that joy, resilience, and purpose are not just ideals, they're choices. They're the product of hard-won experience and deep personal growth. My guest today, Ted Guice, is exactly that kind of person. His life and work reflect a quiet strength and generosity that leave a mark on everyone he meets. He's one of those people in the LGBTQ plus community who has turned personal setbacks into powerful tools of connection and healing. As a fitness trainer and group exercise instructor, Ted brings over 35 years' experience to his work on senior fitness and the importance of staying visible, connected, and active as we age. But what makes Ted's story remarkable is everything he's carried with him to get here. A long-term HIV survivor of 46 years, Ted is also 9 years sober and deeply engaged in supporting others through fitness, wellness, and recovery. He's the founder of G-Force, a popular group fitness class that found new life during COVID and continues to thrive in Ruth Hardy Park today. What began as a creative solution to gym closures quickly became a beloved community staple with dozens gathering regularly to move, connect, and support each other. Ted is a community leader, volunteering with organizations like the Trevor Project, AIDS Walk, and HIV Aging Research Project, where he serves on the board. And then there's his unexpected chapter in wedding planning. Ted has officiated nearly 400 weddings, a path that began with a single flower delivery in Maui and evolved into becoming one of the island's top wedding coordinators for years. Ted speaks openly about addiction, self-worth, aging, and the need to keep moving physically, emotionally, and spiritually. He believes in staying connected, making people feel seen, and embracing this chapter of his life as the most meaningful yet. In this episode, we explore Ted's incredible journey, his love of community, his belief in transformation, and the lasting impact of just showing up for yourself and for others. Here is my conversation with my friend, the inspiring Ted Guice. Before we dive in, I wanted to find out how you're doing.
I'm just about ready to be 68 years old next month, and I'm feeling good about that. So I'm pretty happy camper, you know.
How does that feel, turning 68?
It's a little surreal sometimes because it seems like I just turned around and all of a sudden I'm an older man. And I've been here in Palm Springs for 19 years now, and it just seems like it's flown by.
I was wondering, being HIV positive, what that influence was on you.
I'm HIV positive for 46 years now. So I was 22 years old. I know that because I was part of the Gay Men's Health Study for hepatitis B, and they froze our blood samples. And sure enough, I was positive for HIV in 1979, one of those last samples they took. So it has influenced me a lot in a way to make sure that I stay connected with people, that I lead a fairly healthy lifestyle, and I've had major lapses in doing that across the board. Unfortunately, I developed a methamphetamine habit later in my 40s, and it was not good. And I did that for 10 years, and it damn near killed me. And thank God they stood by me here at Steel Gym and supported me and made sure that I, had a job to come back to. So it derailed me for a while, but now it's made me much more focused on what's important and not to sweat the small stuff.
Can you tell me what made you go, okay, I need to stop?
I'll be honest with you. I was an IV user, and it's a rough way to go, and it's all bad. But that in particular is not a pretty picture. So I had tried to get clean a couple times, and with a little success, but I was basically white knuckling it. I wasn't going to any 12-step programs or anything like that, and nothing ever worked. And so finally, it was about 4:30 in the morning. I knew I was about to bite it. I was about to, go down. And so I called a friend of mine, and he walked me through that and told me just to go sit in my room and sweat it out. And that's what I did. And I got to a meeting the next day. And that's what saved my life. I just had this, if you will, come to Jesus or come to Allah moment. And that spiritual experience that they say that you need to have, that moment of clarity. And everything became really clear to me.
One of the things I love about you is that you always have this positive, outlook on life. You always seem to be looking to do better, to be better, to help other people find that in themselves. What were you raised that? Were you raised that way?
I'm glad that comes across. I was raised in I had two different households. My parents were married for about 20 years. They fought like cats and dogs, but they raised us, even though they had problems, they raised us to be positive people and look for solutions and face the day, with your best foot forward. And then when my father remarried, he married a really wonderful woman, my stepmother, and she was much the same. Now they didn't fight like my dad and mom did, thank goodness. And so it was much easier to start the day positive. And so, yeah, I think I've always, I've never been depressed or anything like that. I think I mentioned that to you before. I've had bad days, maybe bad weeks and things like that, but I can't tell you what it feels like to feel depression. So
actual real depression. I agree with you. I've never experienced that. Like you, I've had sad days or weeks, but not full on depression.
Yeah, I can really, I really empathize with people. Try to empathize with them who do, because I don't know what that feels like, but I see them struggle with it so much. So a lot of about being positive is just being grateful for what you have and where you are right now, and I try to subscribe to that. So,
were your brothers a big influence in that?
Oh yeah, I have three older brothers, and one of us has passed away, Jim. But they were big influences on me, and they were kind of my heroes. They're who I got information from. I was the youngest of four boys, and so I looked to them to kind of help me handle my parents' relationships, their rocky relationship, and the fighting and stuff like that. And they were kind of my big protectors. Nobody messed with me in school or anything like that to any degree. So, and they're positive guys. They put their best foot forward. And I have two younger stepsisters too, who are much the same, and who I just love and adore as my sisters. So I lucked out in that respect. I have great relationships with all of them.
That's awesome.
Families,
it is.
family's important. Yeah.
Especially when I hear the stories of people who don't have great relationships with their siblings or their parents, and my heart goes out to them.
Your brothers were really supportive when you came out, right?
They were, because I was just 18, and I wasn't sure. I mean, I knew that my parents, for the most part, wouldn't reject me, but I didn't know what to think. And of course, so I went to my brothers to tell them and ask them to help me, tell my parents, and they did that. And so
Wow.
yeah, I've always trusted them. They have always been there for me in my life, and I don't doubt their hearts and their heads for a second. So they really helped me, and they were very accepting of it. Anybody that I've ever had in my life, and come to the family, be part of the family. So that always was very nice. So
When you were young, you were athletic, but you weren't into sports the way your brothers were.
no, I was into being a cheerleader, and my brothers were all jocks. They could do anything: football, baseball, track, basketball. They did it all three of them, and I was not anywhere near that. So I could excel in gymnastics because I was smaller than them, and I liked it. And I liked diving. My brothers taught me how to dive off a diving board, and did pretty well with that. And and I liked being a cheerleader, rah. So,
Did you do any cheerleading in college?
no, I never went to college. I was not cut out for college, and I knew that pretty quick after I came out. I had plans to go to a JC in Salinas, California, just up the road from where I lived in the Salinas Valley, and but I just wasn't cut out for it. And I also took my first trip to San Francisco when I was 18 with somebody I worked with, and the lights came on and all the whistles. So college was out of the question for
The
me.
bell went off.
Yeah. So I just chose a liberal education in San Francisco. So
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
San Francisco is a great place to get an education.
it is, and it was a good place for me to go from. This little farm town that I was from, King City, had 3,500 people, I think, when I left. And San Francisco wasn't millions of people, but it was a big city to me. It was, 2 hours away from home if I needed anything. And back in the 70s too, I mean, I lived and worked right in the middle of the Castro and on Polk Street, but living in the Castro is very village-like, very small town-like in lots of respects,
San Francisco is where you got into fitness, correct?
Yeah. There was a little place on the corner of 17th and Market, and it was called City Athletic Club, and they needed a person to kind of walk the floor and help members. And it was a small place, but it was laid out and everything. So that's what they hired me to do, and I got certified, and then always kept it in my back pocket. In case I needed it, I always kept my certification up. And then when I moved to Palm Springs, thank God, Steel Gym was here, and they let me come here and train.
I thought you were already training before you came to Palm Springs, so you started training. Oh, you were?
Yeah, in San Francisco, yeah.
Okay.
But I've done other things in my life too, so I always kept my certifications up and current, so I could, in 96 and 97, I had a personal training studio on Sunny Dunes here in Palm Springs. And then I had a studio up in Sacramento as well. At one point, I decided that I was going to be a nurse, and I couldn't get into nursing school in San Francisco. So I moved to Sacramento because I could get in there.
Did you actually go to nursing school?
No, I met a really nice man who became my domestic partner for 14 years, Mike, and we got a wild hair and both said, we've always wanted to live in Hawaii. And so I sold my house, we sold our cars, and packed everything else in storage that we didn't sell, and we moved to Hawaii and spent 8 years there.
I love this about you. You just go on these adventures.
It was great. It was one of the best things I've ever done in my entire life. So.
And you did wedding planning or something like that?
Wedding planning, yeah. We lived in a shack on the shore, right on the ocean front, this little Kamaina cottage. I remember it was $900 a month and oceanfront. I couldn't believe it that we'd fallen on this. And I lived next door to a lady, Denise, who was a florist, and she worked for all the wedding coordinators on Maui. And she was in a bind one day and couldn't deliver flowers, so she ran over to the house screaming at me, Ted, can you deliver these flowers down to McKenna Beach? And I said, sure, I'll do it for you. Well, one thing led to another, and so I started a delivery service that catered to wedding planners, and I also got the Costco account over there. They just opened a Costco. So I was busy delivering things up and down the island, and long story short, my partner and I saw real potential in that, and we opened our own wedding business as well. We became the #1 wedding coordinator on Maui for several years in a row. I've officiated 378 weddings now, so which brings me great joy. I just do it as a labor of love. I don't charge anymore.
Do you do any more planning? Like, did you do that here in Palm Springs?
No. When we split up, on January 1st, 2007. We had just bought a second home here in Palm Springs. We're up in Carmel and bought a second home here, and it didn't work out for us after 14 years. And so I stayed here, and he went up there, and we split. And so that was the end of the wedding business for me, except for officiating weddings.
So now you're in Palm Springs.
Yeah.
And you're looking for something to do. Yeah. And you go to Steel Gym.
Yeah, which was World Gym at the time, and they were great. They let me become a trainer here, and in fact, I think they gave me time to build a clientele without charging me rent, and it was great. And I took off. I remember I trained a couple of guys for free for a month, just so I would have a presence out on the gym floor, and that worked out great. And ever since then, I've had a full schedule. And I am so ecstatic. I'll be 68 next month in June, and I never thought that I'd still be doing this at this age. But this is a great place to be because everybody got older along with me, and I have a couple of clients here that I've had ever since I've been here. I've known, there's still a lot of gym members that have been here the whole time I have. It's a great social testament to the healthy benefits, both physically and emotionally and mentally, of staying connected with people.
Yes,
it's this little melting pot of people here, and it's so important, especially for some of the. Well, a lot of the older guys in their 70s and 80s, it is their social outing for the day, and it does keep them connected because there's a lot of research that says and a lot of proof out there that says as we get older we tend to become more invisible, less visible, and so this helps so many people. So many days stay connected and have some structure in their life. Oh, I got to go to the gym. They may not be doing much else, but at least they'll come to the gym and they'll connect with people. And our cafe area is a great example of that. At any time of day, you can walk out there and you can see small groups, sitting around and they're connecting.
Was that one of the reasons that you started G-Force?
Oh, yes, definitely. I just lucked out because the guy that had the class before I took it over had to leave, and so they asked me if I could do that, and I said I think I can. I've never done it before, but long story short, it was the best. It was one of the best things that ever happened to me. So it gave me more confidence that I didn't even realize I lacked. The best thing about it, though, is that it was bringing people together and to have fun together. And some of the best friendships people have ever made are in that class, they tell me. I hear that often. So
well, and you've expanded it out into Ruth Hardy Park as well.
Yeah, we did. When COVID came, of course, gyms had to close, and so we were looking for a place and a way to connect when we were told not to connect. And so we worked with the city and started it up out there. And I remember being out there. There was about 10 or 12 of us at first, and eventually people would walk by and they'd hear the music, and gyms were still closed and all that. And one thing led to another, and it built, and it got too big to bring back indoors. So it's still out there today. I'm not teaching it right now. My wonderful dear friend Michael Koth, who is also a trainer here at Steel Gym, he has taken over since I had some back issues and some back surgeries, and so he's taken over, and it's still going strong. And on any day during season, there'll be anywhere from 30 to 60, 70 people out there. So I'm so proud of that, and it's 15 years this year that we're doing it. So.
And you've been given awards by the city for this, haven't you?
By the Desert Business Association. I was their community service, community service person of the year last year, and that was a really great honor. Then Coachella Valley Independent has the best of, and so for 5 years in a row, I got best trainer with them. And
that's cool.
So I'm very grateful for that. It's not lost on me how nice and kind people are. And, we were talking about that. I'm not particularly a sun bunny, and I'm not particularly into really hot weather anymore at 68. I'm not one to go lay by the pool or anything like that. And so I'm really here because of the community. That's what keeps me here. I mean, there are places I'd love to live again, like Carmel and Hawaii, but I'm not doing that at this point in my life because I just have built such a great family and family of friends here, and it really is the Visitors Bureau says it's like no place else, and that's exactly it. It's like
I kind of believe that. Yeah, I love it here. I love it here.
Yeah.
And there's something kind of, I know this is going to sound so woo-woo, but there's just something kind of magical about this area.
Oh yeah.
And the people and how people relate to each other. And
I agree.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what, but everyone here seems to be in a place of relaxation and, and not so hung up on how everyone else sees everyone else. I mean, there are some political divides here and there, but that's going to be everywhere, wherever you go.
And there are some, I mean, every once in a while you'll hear somebody on social media say, oh, I never live in Palm Springs. So people there are just, but that's one person. And so I try to always remember, okay, maybe they had a bad experience. Maybe they were partly responsible for that. It's pretty darn easy to have a great experience here in Palm Springs if that's what you're looking for, right?
Well, I had the idea that Palm Springs was a party town.
And in any resort community, whether it's, Fire Island, P-Town, Guerneville, or Palm Springs, there's going to be a lot of drugs and alcohol available. There's also, though, because of that, especially in Palm Springs, there's also great recovery here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Double-edged sword. There's some great recovery. I've met some of the most wonderful people in my life in the rooms, of recovery. So.
Let's talk about recovery for a minute. So how long have you been sober now?
It'll be 9 years on June 5th.
And, the influence that has had on you in training, how do you take that and apply it to your clients?
Well, first of all, it's allowed me to shut my mouth a little bit more and be a better listener. People are trying to tell me that maybe they have issues too. Like I share it openly with people, and my experience is that that's been a good thing for me to do because just in the last 5 years I can count 3 people that have said, "Oh, come to me after revealing that I was in recovery and said, can you offer me some guidance? Can you help me? Can you take me to a meeting?" Things like that. So that's been a wonderful payback. And it does influence my training because the newly sober or newly clean person is probably just gone, maybe just gone through rehab. They're getting their ducks in a row. They're trying to straighten out their life and clear up the wreckage of their past, as they say. And so physical exercise and being connected again are so important to that successful journey. So this is a great venue to do that, and I'm lucky and grateful because I do train other people that are in the program, and so I get to have that experience, that talk, that level of discussion and feeling every day.
Yeah, it probably is really helpful that they can talk with you without feeling any judgment coming at them.
I hope so. I hope
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
Oh, I don't. I think you exude no judgment. I mean, that is.
Thank you.
That's how you come across. That's how you come across to me.
Thank you. I've had my moments, and when I behaved badly, and when I was not at my best, and so I don't ignore those, and I try not to repeat the past. And what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. So I try not to do that, and I'm really, this is the best job I could ever have, frankly. It allows me to connect with people the way I like to, and I love everybody that works here. The trainers I work with, and the guys behind the front desk, and it's been a really beautiful thing for me. I'm very, very grateful.
When you look at the people that you've inspired over the years and helped out, what's your biggest hope for them?
My biggest hope for people that I've worked with and that I've helped and things is that they continue to help themselves. Sometimes you just need to show somebody the way, give them a hand up, and then let them take the ball and run with it. And I hope that's what they do, that they stay active, that they stay visible, that they, I'm fond of saying you just have to keep moving one way or another, whether you have to crawl or walk or wheel yourself, keep moving and stay visible. And I hope that's what they do. The other thing that I try to instill in my clients and talk about lots with my friends is that, you have to, it's all well and good to be retired, and but you still have to have some structure in your life. And I can't tell you how many people that I've trained that said, well, I retired, then I got bored, and I drank too much, and I got fat, and lazy, and blah, blah, blah. So they decided to come to the gym, or they decided to go get a part-time job, or volunteer, or. So you gotta keep busy, and you gotta stay connected with people, and that's an important message that I like my friends and clients to know.
I think it's really easy when you have a lot of free time to settle into that free time and do less.
Right.
And you don't have to do less because there are a million other things you can do. But I also think people get nervous, intimidated.
Yes, I see that happen here. And I see, especially some older people, they start to feel like they need to pull back just because they're older. And and that's the way it is. So what I try to do is, I try to go out of my way to say hello to people that don't normally talk to others or aren't talked to, and I encourage other people to do that as well. It's just like just say hi, a couple times, or ask somebody how they're doing that normally it comes by themselves, or they're here. You'll know right away if they don't want to talk. But 9 times out of 10, most people appreciate being acknowledged and seen and heard and asked how they are, and it's such an easy thing to do, and it's so worthwhile. So.
You and I once talked about this before. There's a fitness influencer who he's a big guy, and I can't remember his name, but he does TikToks, I think, and he would call out people who were being mean to other people.
Joey Swole.
Yes.
Joey Swole. He's a great guy. Yeah, he's a big monster, and he calls it out. He'll see people, making fun of other people in the gym or videotaping them when they're not looking and all that.
Yeah.
He calls it right out. And yeah, I mean, you know, it's so easy to be critical and make fun of people, unfortunately. And
Yeah.
it's twice as easy to be nice and caring and respectful and engaging, you know.
Yeah. That when people are critical, to me, I
Yeah.
think that's coming from your inside.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
projecting, and
Right.
but you know, people who are receiving that don't necessarily know that, right?
Right.
And people who go to the gym, whether you're overweight, you're older, you're skinny, you just a little bit of encouragement or just
Yes.
a little bit of acknowledgement goes a
Yes.
long way.
It does. It does. You know, and there are, for instance, there's scenarios like, you know, I've heard, you know, I had a couple covers who are have obesity, and they are sure that everyone is, you know, laughing at them or saying, "What is that person doing here?" Or, you know, which is not the case. Yes, there may be somebody who makes a crude remark, unfortunately, within their earshot, but most people are saying, good for them. They're here, you know, but that's not how they look. So that's not how they think about it. You know, if they have trouble looking at themselves in the mirror, they don't like what they see. They're going to imagine that other people feel the same way about them. And so,
Yeah.
a lot of my work is to undo those, help undo those things. You know, those preconceived notions or that thought that they're not worthy or
Yeah.
they don't belong here. You know, everybody belongs here if they want to be here.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we focus in on the negative
Yeah.
comments because
Yeah.
and actually there are less of those, but they're louder in our heads than
Right.
the positive comments.
When you can't accept a compliment, almost, you know, it's like because you're so used to hearing and thinking the negative part that when you do get a compliment, oh, you know, that's not true, or, you know, so.
Yeah. Actually, that took me a very long time. I had a very hard time accepting compliments as a young person.
Yes,
I had a
yes.
very hard time with that.
Well, I think that's interesting because I mean, I think our parents, at least my parents, they always taught us to, you are humble, you are kind, and you help others before you accept help from others. And part of that is saying, you know, oh no, I'm not that good, you know. So it's a mixed effect message.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. I don't
Sure.
know what your situation was, but you know, we were certainly taught like, no, you don't boast about anything.
Yeah, my parents were that way, and you know, my parents were very kind people. I think because I was gay, and I was so aware of that in high school, and I you know didn't want anyone to know. Anything that came at me was I would immediately throw a shield up and be like, you know, and
Sure.
it took a long time. I think it takes a lot of people a long time to work through that
Oh, right.
to get to a point where you are okay. Like,
Yeah. Like it's like so many things that are basically a lifelong endeavor, a lifelong journey, you know,
Yeah.
and hopefully you get to a place where you're comfortable in your skin and you don't, you know, rely on those old tapes to dictate your life going forward. I don't know why else that we are here if not to have relationships with other people, right? And I think that's our whole purpose for being here, to build these relationships for whatever reason. If your relationships have been rocky and you've been influenced by a lot of negativity or traumatized in some way, I mean, wow, it's a lot to unpack.
it is a lot to unpack. And it has to be work that you are willing to do. It has to be things that you're willing to look inside and say, okay, why am I feeling this way? Why am I taking this thing that this person said to me and making it my whole being?
Right.
And I think that's really hard for people.
It is.
Also think that if you can start doing that to yourself, just questioning it just a little bit, just keep questioning it. Why am I feeling this way? You'll start to hear the positive stuff. So
Yeah.
it's slow. It is a very slow
It
process.
is, and it does start with being like they say in the present, being willing to be willing.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah. So that is a big step right there, just to get to that. Okay, I'm willing to look at this. I'm willing to explore this and find out. You know, some of the best work I've ever done and absolutely helped me change my life were the 12 steps. And because you get all that shit out, you know, you work it out and you tell somebody else about it and you make your amends and you say your sorries and you change your behavior and they have a saying that, you know, the 12 steps help you learn to live with yourself and the 12 traditions of the program help you live with everybody else. And I think that's true. There's so many times I've thought to myself, God, the whole world should live this way.
Well, it's interesting you say that because another friend of mine who's been sober over 20 years
Yep.
says it's the steps. He said, it's the steps that saved me.
Yeah.
And they still save me.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Because, you know, it compels you to 10, 11, and 12, it compels you to keep self-examination going, to promptly admit that you were wrong and to be of service to others and help. So it's an ongoing deal. It's like I say, it's whether you had an addiction issue or not, it's one of the best. It's the best work I've ever done, and I've done a lot of self-reflection. I've been in therapy a lot, and you know, it's that kind of pulled it all together for me. So,
well, being a trainer is a little bit like being a therapist.
It is. It is very much like that, and I think that's why as I get older, I'm even more grateful to be able to still do this because, you know, technically I know that there are younger trainers that are technically more knowledgeable than I am, or they may have a better education. But that's great. They make us all better. But I love this connection that I have, especially with my peers. You know, my youngest client is 55 and my oldest client is 86 right now. And so there's a wealth of knowledge and experience and everything that I get to exchange with people that happens right here on the gym floor. That's just incredible.
Are you specifically focused in on older people?
I am now. I didn't mean to be. You know, when I first got here, I was kind of a hot shot, I think, and I attracted, you know, younger, older, all that kind of stuff. But the natural progression of it, and one that I'm very happy with, is that I take on a lot of these older clients, and I just love that. I'm not opposed to training anybody younger. It just has naturally evolved into this, and I think it's my home. You know, I think it's where my heart is. So I'm so lucky that this. I don't know how it is in other cities, you know, or other things, but this is like such a great social experiment, you know, that's successful right here. So. Yeah, and we have everybody. I mean, we have, you know, older, younger, straight, gay. So it's a really good mixed bag of nuts.
You went to, is it Loyola Marymount?
Loyola Marymount. Yeah, that's where I first got certified.
What other certifications does it take to be a trainer?
You know, you should have you should at least start out with your big, what I call the big boy certifications through ACE or NASM, or there's a couple of other real credible ones. And I think that's important that you are able to do that. And then you should have your CPR. You should know that. In fact, I'm just renewing my certification and my CPR both. You know, there's all sorts of certifications you can have. Like I do have a certification in exercise for older adults. But the main thing, the biggest lesson is is to get out here on the gym floor and get that experience with people, working with people. I mean, you know, I lots of people take lots of courses and they never use whatever they took in all sorts of different areas of life, you know. And the best experience that you can give yourself is to get out here on the gym floor and start doing it.
Do they have to be renewed regularly?
They do, yeah. It's and there's some continuing education with that, and you really, you know, like every once in a while for the CPR certification, I will, rather than just do it online, I'll go down to the fire station here in Palm Springs and take their course because it's hands-on. You learn something a little different. You know, they have poor old Resusci Annie sitting out there, you know, to breathe into. And do you remember those? They were kind of
Yes.
legless, you know, torsos. And so you breathe into it. They have all sorts of stuff like that. So it's good just to do that. And the other thing I like to do is I like to talk to the younger trainers here and find out what they know. And
Sure.
I learn something every day from, you know, we have some younger trainers here, Emilio, Victoria, you know, some of them, and just find out, you know, what they do differently. You know, I find that talking to them is a great source of information and camaraderie. So,
Yeah.
and we also discover the things that we have in common, even though there may be 30 years difference in our ages. I think it's just a fascinating trip to watch us all age together and how we all handle it differently, and how we do this aging thing. It's fascinating.
I actually love aging.
Yeah.
And I love it because it allows freedom in thinking and well, at least for me, it allows me to be more comfortable with who I am and where I'm at and what I want to do, and do I want to try new things. And
there you go.
And that's actually one of the things about Palm Springs that I love, is that there is, like, when I wanted to start doing the podcast stuff, the support around, try it, do it.
Yeah.
It's, you know, see what happens.
Right.
And I love that.
And this is a great community to find. I mean, there's all sorts of little niches, but there's so many people from diverse backgrounds here. I just get amazed at who ends up here. It's like, I had a conversation. Eventually, the whole world comes to Palm Springs at least once, right?
Yeah.
So we're really blessed with some amazing people here that come into your life and that will encourage you, that will help you, that you know, let you be free to do what you do. So.
If you could go back and give you, a young you, a very gay pep talk, what would you say, and would they believe you?
Yeah. What would I say to myself? What kind of a pep talk?
A very gay pep talk. But it could just be a pep talk.
Okay. Well, it's all kind of part and parcel.
That's true.
I would, you know, the things I worried about when I was in my 20s and 30s and as a kid, you know, most of it never happened, never materialized, right? So I would stress to my younger self that, you know, it's all going to be okay, and you can just relax and be whoever you want to be. And you know, some of the biggest confidence and ease with myself came when I started teaching G-Force workout, because I had to get up and not be perfect. I was going to make mistakes, and it was going to be okay. Nobody was going to laugh at me. Nobody was going to say I was bad because I made a mistake. So I would stress that to my younger self. It's just relax. You're going to be okay, and you're going to make mistakes, and you're still okay. So.
Yeah. Do you think the younger you would, looking at you now, would be like, oh, wow, I did not expect it to be that, or that great, or that whatever? What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely do. You know, I was very motivated when I was younger. Like I bought my first house when I was 24, and I did lots of things, and that looked good.
Yeah.
But
All the right things.
Yeah, all the right things. And I've always been employed. I've always, I've never, except when I had some back surgery and stuff like that, I've never really been out of work or anything like that. I've never been on unemployment, except during the pandemic. So I never felt as comfortable in my skin as I do today, though. And you're right. That's one of the nice things about getting older.
Yeah.
I don't get involved with things that aren't that are a waste of my time, that don't matter. I laugh freely at myself and with myself. So it's a gift about getting older. Do I not relish that the days are shorter and there's not as much time? Yeah, I think about that, and I think, gosh, I'd love to be here 50 years from now, 100 years from now, just because I'm fascinated with the way the world changes, and I'd like to see what it's like then. But, I'm in acceptance mode of where I'm at, and that feels good, and that allows me to just not have to, again, sweat the small stuff.
You're not afraid of dying.
No, I'm not. I got a good taste of that coming up in the 70s and 80s with the AIDS crisis, and living and working right in the middle of the Castro, and being there with people when they actually died at a young age. So I was able to get a taste of that, and it is just in the last 10 years, though, that I've really started to look at that again as I get older and think about how I feel about the process of dying, eventual death. And again, that voice that says, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay.
That's kind of how I feel about it. I think that's where the freedom comes in.
Yeah.
When you start thinking about, maybe 10, 20 years left. Okay, well,
yeah. Right.
What am I going to do with that time?
Right.
What am I going to do?
Yeah.
Am I just going to sit and wait? No, I'm not going to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is probably the most important time of my life, is how I feel about it.
That's how I feel about it.
Yeah. There's so much going on here that's wonderful, and it's very important. So
yes.
I'm glad you feel that way too.
Well, thank you for sitting with me for this hour.
Okay. My pleasure, David. Thank you. And good luck with your podcast endeavors here. It's always fun to talk to you, and thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate being able to put it out there.
Yeah, thank you. And
all right.
One last thing, if people wanted to get a hold of you, would they just go to your website?
Yeah, just go to my website, tedguice.com, Guice, or they can call me. My number's on my Facebook profile, and I'm easy to find. So I'm around.
I'll put the website link in the show notes.
Yeah. And my phone number's fine too. That's all. I mean, I don't have any room in my schedule for new clients, but I'm always happy to sit and talk with people about what their needs are, answer any questions, and help refer them to another trainer if I can.
I love that.
So yeah, that's my pleasure.
Okay. Thank you, Ted.
All right. Thank you, David.
Thank you so much for joining me for this conversation with Ted Guice. Ted's story is a reminder that it's never too late. Never too late to grow, to heal, to connect, or to move forward with purpose. Whether it's in the gym, at the park, or simply reaching out to someone who looks like they could use it, we each have a power to be a source of connection and care. And if you're someone who's navigating aging, recovery, or just trying to find your way again, showing up matters. For yourself, for your community, for the life that you're building. If Ted's story resonated with you, leave a review. It helps others find these conversations. You can always reach me on Substack or Blue Sky at David Bigor. I'd love to hear what stood out to you. Until next time, keep moving, stay connected, and be kind to yourself along the way. Be bold, be free, be you. I'm David Bigor, and thank you for listening to Friends, Loves, and Life.